So the rapture was, kind of made up or invented in the 1800s by a pastor in America named Nelson Darby. And before that, Christians definitely believed in the end of the world and that Jesus would return and usher in an age of peace and all this stuff. But Darby said, well, there are these certain passages in the Bible that talk about when Jesus returns, we will meet him in the air. And so that's where he got this idea of there'll be this rapture, and good Christians will sort of float up to into heaven, right, to meet Jesus. And everyone who's not a good Christian, they'll be stuck here on Earth. And then in the 90s, you had these novels called Left Behind. These were a huge thing in the 90s. My mom read all of them. There was a mini series, but it shows the world where all the Christians have just vanished one day, right? And then the Antichrist takes over and everything is really bad. So people have been sort of waiting for this to happen for a long time. The last time this got really big was in 2011, and there were people who said we've calculated the date the rapture will occur, and they gave away their life savings because they figured they weren't going to need it. And then what always happens with these predictions, at least so far, is they have always been wrong. So we're currently going through another round of these kinds of predictions, but I think this is just a feature of our society at this point. Just every couple years, somebody will step up and predict the rapture, and we'll get some momentum, and then probably nothing will happen, and it'll kind of kind of wear off, right? Often when these things fail to pass, these pastors say, "Well, I added up all the dates and the events in the Bible, and I miscalculated. I forgot to carry the one or something like that." So it's not going to happen in October. It's going to happen in December, and then it kind of kicks the can down the road. But this has all happened many times before.
Isn't that what just happened with this one? They said like, oh, it's a different calendar, and we meant like the full moon, not the new moon.
Exactly, right? But that only buys you a little bit of time, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually it becomes obvious that this isn't happening. And then this is a whole area of research in the study of cults and new religious movements. But what happens to a group if you make a prophecy and then the prophecy doesn't come true? Surprisingly, you usually can get away with it, right? Usually your followers will be very forgiving if you make a big prophecy and it doesn't actually happen, and they'll say, "Well, it was a test of faith," or it actually did happen, but in a kind of spiritual and metaphorical sense. It's rare that people say, "Oh my gosh, you're totally full of crap," right? You're a fake prophet. It happens sometimes, but not nearly as often as you would think.
And that's what we call cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, as the theory of cognitive dissonance, which goes back to a case of studying actually a UFO group in the 1950s. But the idea of, I totally believe in this religion, I totally believe in my prophet, and yet this didn't happen. So you have two contradictory ideas kind of fighting each other in your brain. And so the theory is you will start to do weird things to kind of relieve that conflict in your brain. And one way you can do that, according to the theory, is you can start proselytizing even more, right? So instead of losing your faith when the prophecy fails, you double down and you try to get even more people to convert. Because if more people can convert, then it must be true, right? Then the thing that you believe must be the truth, and your doubts are sort of alleviated.